Anyway, I understand about safety, but my goodness.
Yeah, it was a weird morning, and now
it's just the best day I've seen. I'll just pick a spot through there. We'll be okay.
Sort of highline to...
Yep, through there. Well, I'll go straight through there. I'll go to your left. Audio level, testing 1, 2, 3. David Crisafulli.
1 moment, so I was going to set it up the radio too.
No worries at all. Thanks for your flexibility, guys. Thanks very, very much.
No worries. Sorry. Do you guys want an eye line here?
I'll go through there. I'll just go in between you two, if that works.
An unreliable batteries, I'm sorry, guys.
Am I in there? Your hand is that fine? Yeah. Sure.
Audio level, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Declan, you're willing to sacrifice sun safety for a good picture. That's steady. 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3. No worries, thank you. All good? The Queensland health crisis continues to deepen, and the state of the government's crisis and chaos shows no sign of ending and no sign of healing that crisis. The opposition can today reveal new figures that show just how deep this crisis is. We've had the worst start to a year on record. 40,000 lost ambulance hours. Just imagine that. Imagine the frustration of a paramedic unable to do their job because of a state government that hasn't properly resourced the health system. Imagine the doctors and nurses trying to keep that system together, and imagine patients waiting for an ambo that doesn't arrive because of a system in crisis. 40,000 lost hours in the first quarter of the year. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent in the southern part of Brisbane of 16 crews being off the road every day. Here in Mackay, it's nearly an entire shift lost every day. And there are consequences for that. That means that paramedics aren't able to do their job. It means that Queenslanders don't get the help they need in their hour of need. And what it's doing is it's culminating in Queenslanders waiting extraordinarily large periods of time in EDs. And further figures that the opposition has obtained through a question on notice shows that some of the waits that Queenslanders are experiencing in our EDs across the state have reached unacceptable levels. A patient waited in the order of 13 hours at the PA Hospital. We've had long waits in Toowoomba, in Bundaberg. Here in Mackay, a patient waited 4.5 hours in the ED. This is happening because of a system that is in chaos and crisis, and it is happening because the government hasn't listened to the solutions on the table. And we will continue to put our solutions forward. Better resources, better triaging, sharing data in real time, and finally putting doctors and nurses back in charge. That is the only way we are going to heal the Queensland health crisis. These are extraordinary numbers, and it shows the depths of the crisis, and it shows that the government just quite simply is not listening to those frontline staff or the patients demanding a solution. Over to you.
When you're talking about better resources, what specifically are you talking about? Because you can't just magically make people work in regional areas.
Well, it starts with continuing the fight with the federal government for our share of funding. And I was happy to call that out before the federal election when there was a different government of a different political persuasion. And if you recall, the state government made that the single biggest reason why we should change the government in Canberra. That was the sole focus day in, day out, that we were going to get 50-50 health funding. Well, since the election, the Premier has all but stopped talking about it. I haven't. And I was prepared to do that when there was a blue team in Canberra, and I'm prepared to do that when there's the red team in Canberra, because I'm on Team Maroon, and I want what's right for this part of the world and for our state as a whole. So when I talk about better resources, it starts with getting our fair share from the federal government. It also looks like making sure that every dollar we invest continues to grow that front line. Let's respect and value the doctors and nurses that we've got and keep them. Let's recruit the new ones, and let's make sure that the health money that we're pouring into the system deals with better outcomes for people. But there are other things, the three other solutions I put forward don't require bucket loads of money. They're about cultural change, sharing data in real time to drive accountability, putting doctors and nurses back in charge and ending the Brisbane knows best mentality. Those things can be done immediately without spending a lot of money.
And when you're talking about lost hours, are you talking about ambulance that are waiting in the emergency department with patients?
Yeah. And I always go at pains to say the patient is obviously in a the patient is obviously in a very, very distressed state at that time. But spare a thought for the health worker as well. Ambos didn't sign up to wait at the end of the ramp. They didn't sign up to lose an entire shift just sitting there waiting. They are the victims of the health crisis as much as the patients are. We have some of the best and brightest people in medicine, doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, ambos. They are being let down by a bad system as much as the patients who are waiting at the end of the phone.
What is that in comparison to, and for what period of time is it?
That's the first quarter. So that is the worst amount of lost hours in the first quarter in Queensland in history. So that's 40,000 hours lost between January and March. That is uncharted territory and breaking records for all the wrong reasons. And at the end of every one of those hours is a paramedic who is deeply frustrated and a patient who is not getting the help they need. And if those figures aren't ringing alarm bells at the highest level of the state government, well, I don't know what will, because that is the sign of a system in crisis. And we have to do more to heal the health system right now in Queensland.
Better triaging means more beds and more space. So the Mackay has 122 beds that will be built, but obviously that's not overnight. So
that's right. But that's when I refer to more beds, it's better resourcing. When I talk about better triaging, it's improving our process when people arrive in EDs. And there are examples across the globe of how that can be improved if you put the doctors and nurses back in charge. And we believe with world-class triaging, we can help free up some of those resources. Now that doesn't, I'm not walking away for one moment for the need for more doctors and nurses on the front line, for more beds, absolutely. But we also need to use the resources that we have at the moment, and improving our triaging will help that.
And how can you fix a culture of putting nurses and doctors in charge?
But that can be done immediately. We have HHSs, and they should be empowered and resourced, and the doctors and nurses should be the masters of their own destiny. And that's not happening at the moment. I have seen the centralisation of power back to Brisbane over the last 8 years, and Queenslanders aren't comfortable with that. That culture has to change. Individuals at the coalface need to make the decisions about resourcing and about the way they're spent, and that's not happening at the moment. And if you analyse the budget over the last 8 years, you have seen the proportion of funding has grown at a faster rate for the administration in Brisbane to the HHSs at the front line. And a couple of times they've even been asked to make cuts to the front line, and that just defies belief. We should be freeing up resources for those people at the coalface. We have HHSs, they should be resourced and empowered to do what they need to do.
Just quickly as well, just going back to those numbers and hours, do you know what the first quarter of last year was?
We can get that for you, but it is an increase on that first quarter.
I was just going to say, are you able to break down those 40 hours, what regions and cities?
Yep. No, we have a full breakdown for all, and we can give you that as well.
And also
Your light's gone. So it's not just the camera battery that was...
Batteries are dying.
Okay, it's overheated, it hasn't died.
Oh, actually,
it's
this is
fair.
an overheat issue as well.
Wings up.
Oh no,
My light's back on.
sorry guys.
It's
Oh, God.
Do we want to take 2 seconds while your phone calls down?
Yeah, do you mind?
hey, I'm the one who stuffed you around today, so thank you very much. Oh, you can end the live, yeah. It's up to you, mate. You guys.
It died at the end after the question was finished, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it died during it.
Okay, I didn't-
No, the light ended after.
Oh, well,
No, definitely. Definitely.
this isn't made for outdoors. They still haven't given me my light though. That's for 8 months ago.
Can someone, is it possible to share the back end of the presser with you guys?
Your guys probably have got
Well,
share.
we're live, so you can definitely take our feed if you're.
Might do, but let's just give it one. Oh, it's back on.
Oh, good. Keep it up.
Oh, that's so bad.
This wouldn't be a problem in Sydney or Melbourne today, would it?
Sweating.
I live in Queensland for this heat.
Exactly.
This is exactly why I picked to live here.
I was at TI yesterday, and the temperature range was 24 to 27. So good.
Yeah, I'm going to Perth next week, and my friend already told me, she's like, you will freeze.
Yeah.
Perth."
Yeah, no. We're good?
I'll just give
Okay.
it 1 more second, sorry.
No worries at all. Oh, it's beautiful.
Oh, hi, Alfred. Lily again in Mackay.
Just here for the day, or?
Yeah,
Just reconnected
yeah.
because the motor overheated.
Would have been here a lot earlier, but
Felt something.
man, that's amazing.
When's your next flight?
Lunchtime, or a bit after lunchtime.
okay.
So, man,
Doesn't give you much time.
I've been delayed before flying into Rocky, I think, but not like that. Look, we were honestly, they'd preloaded fuel because they knew there was an issue, but we were in there we were due to land at 8:20, and we didn't land until like 10 past 10, I think it was.
Yeah.
No, 10 to 10, so it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We good, Deck? Yeah, good. Sorry, guys. Keep going, over to you.
Okay, I just have a few questions from other markets.
Share, thank you.
From Brisbane. But this week we've heard more concerning cases of patient harm coming out of Caboolture Hospital 2 years after complaints were previously raised and supposed to be investigated at that facility.
Yeah.
How do you react to that?
It's alarming. We've had dozens of people come forward, and the developments in recent weeks show that that's simply the tip of the iceberg. What is happening at the Caboolture Hospital is not the fault of the doctors and nurses, but that region is being exposed by a health system in crisis, and it just cannot continue. The stories are not what Queenslanders deserve and expect from a world-class health system. They are not what people working in there as doctors and nurses deserve. They are not what patients need to rely on in their hour of need. This system is buckling, and what we are hearing in Caboolture 2 years after we first raised it shows that the government hasn't listened to a thing. They haven't listened to patients, they haven't listened to frontline health workers. They have treated this as though it would just simply go away if they ignored it. And it's not going away. The stories are real, and they are growing by the day.
From Townsville, we've got the state government has released new guidelines to get more critical mineral mines open in the northwest. Do you back this decision?
The greatest gift we can give the mining industry is calm and considered leadership and an end to the chaos and crisis. Sound decision making, keeping your promise, and ensuring that people can rely on Queensland as a world-class place to live and do business. We have to have an end of the chaos and crisis of the decision making we are seeing, and it is time for calm and measured leadership.
And does the LNP back the $1 billion commitment for copper stream in 2032?
Copper String is a once-in-a-generation project. We have been calling for it and backing it for years. What troubles me is when I look in the budget, there is no money in the Fords to deliver it. And that must send a shiver up the spine of everyone who relies on energy to ensure that that valuable region can reach its full potential. Copper String is a magnificent project. It has to have money attached to it, otherwise it is a cruel hoax. Sure. You're still on. Leave the windsock off, maybe.
It's on. Does it drop
You're,
out?
you're definitely on. 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I just have to pull there.
Over to you.
I was just going to say, do you think that state government's got the balance right between opening the eyes and
All we've ever asked for is for the state government to have a detailed plan. And every industry in Queensland is shaking its head at how chaotic the government has become. You need to have a detailed plan, you need to have KPIs set to it, you need to hold ministers accountable, and you need to have money attached to any project you're doing in the budget. That is leadership 101, and we're not getting it at the moment. And that's why Queenslanders no longer trust the government.
And then there's been a spike in break-ins and stolen cars in Cairns at the moment.
Yeah.
And school holidays have just barely started, basically. So should far northers have to keep suffering through this kind of thing?
Well, the youth crime crisis shows no sign of slowing because the government shows no sign of listening. And it is 7 years today since those laws were watered down. And on the back of it, we have a generation of untouchables, and they know that their rights outweigh the rights of the victim. And when I speak to people in Cairns, people who own small businesses, who work in small businesses, people who live in properties, they say one thing consistently: they just want their rights back. They just want to feel safe in their home, in their business, in their street, and they're not getting it at the moment. And the laws were watered down. And on the back of it, we have a generation of untouchables who know that they can continue to do things without being held accountable. Now, we have 3 solutions, and it starts with consequences for action, unshackling the judiciary and removing detention as a last resort, and gold standard early intervention. And I want to make sure that all 3 elements of those features are there. I want to give every chance to turn kids around before they have a lifetime of crime, before they are holding a knife at somebody's throat, before they're ramming a police car. And at the moment, we are failing at both ends of the spectrum. We're failing the repeat hardcore young offenders, and we're failing those who are early on in their journey of crime. And as a result, the communities feel less safe than they ever have. Thank you all. Sure. Yeah.
We just go back to the statistics, and obviously how concerning is it that that's just 40,000 from the first quarter?
Happy? Oh, thank you, guys. Happy? It's an alarming figure. It's a figure that no Queenslander ever thought they would see in the first quarter of the year. And it shows that the Queensland health crisis is impacting Queenslanders in every part of the state. And here in Mackay, you're not immune. The fact that you basically have an AMBO crew off the road every day because of lost hours, the fact that somebody waited 4.5 hours in an ED, that's not the fault of the staff. That is poor planning, poor resourcing, and a government that is not listening to the solutions that are on the table. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Could we also just get your reactions to Ian McFarlane resigning?
Yeah, I only just heard that this morning. I wish him well. I really do. I wish him well, and I haven't had a chance to pick up the phone and call him yet. But whenever somebody who's been in the public eye for a long time decides to move to the next step of their life, it's always pause to reflect. And I really do. I wish Ian all the best. He's someone he's a passionate Queenslander. He loves the mining industry, and I wish him all the best in retirement.